Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian and Super Podcast, and welcome to the 12th edition of the Godzilla Diaries. For this one, I will be talking about Godzilla vs. MECHAGODZILLA II, and as well as Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla. So let's get right into it, starting off with Godzilla vs. MECHAGODZILLA. Now, despite what the title says, this is not a sequel to the Godzilla vs. MECHAGODZILLA film from the Showa period in the 70s. This is a standalone story. This just happens to have the 2 title at the end of it. So you can see this is kind of like the Troll 2 of the franchise, where it's basically a sequel, but not. But other than that, which is kind of funny, but other than that, I actually really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really cool. And definitely one of my personal favorites of not just this period of the franchise, but just the whole franchise in total. It's a lot of fun, and also there's a lot of things I like about it, because not only has one, not two, but 3 origin stories in this one. First of all, we find they create a brand new origin for the character of MECHAGODZILLA. Now, if you remember, in the Showa period, he was a creation by a bunch of aliens from outer space. Now in this one, we create MECHAGODZILLA ourselves, and how we do that is in the film, the members of G-Force, sort of a group of scientists and military experts, community that sort of come together to fight Godzilla. They decide to find the remains of Mecha King Ghidorah, who you remember was killed in the King Ghidorah film at the end. They decide to find his remains and use the robotic aspects of him to create a new weaponry against Godzilla. They use that and create the robot MECHAGODZILLA. And also in this film, we also have we have a new origin of the character of Mini-Illa, who of course you remember is the son of Godzilla. But he's not called Mini-Illa in this one. He is actually he's called Baby in this one. And what he is he's actually the group of scientists that include the character of Miki, who of course is played by the awesome Megumi Odaka. So she returns along with a group of scientists, and they go to this island and then to sort of study Godzilla, and they stumble upon this giant egg, and they decide to take the egg back for research, and they discover the egg hatches, and it's like it's not exact. Baby in this one isn't like what Godzilla is now. He's in the form of what Godzilla of Godzillasaurus. As you remember, Godzillasaurus was the original version of Godzilla before he radiation mutated him into the large Godzilla. So this is only the small version of Godzillasaurus. So a bunch of scientists sort of look after him, and one of the sort of scientists sort of takes a shine to Baby, and Baby, when she first meets her, sort of basically projects her as her mother. So they sort of have a nice sort of heartwarming relationship during the film. And of course, also I forgot to mention, Rodan is in this movie, and Rodan makes a return in the series. But he's sort of different in this one. He definitely looks more pterodactyl than he did in the Showa period of the films. But it was cool to see him again, and also the sort of the battle sequences towards the end of the film, where Godzilla fights MECHAGODZILLA, is pretty cool and a lot of fun. The acting in this one is really good. The main guy in the film, he's sort of this dinosaur obsessed guy who sort of eventually gets talked into the MECHAGODZILLA program, and his character, I think, is a bit too comical at times and a bit of an idiot, but the actor who plays him does a really good job. But what I really liked about it is sort of the relationship between Baby Godzilla and the scientist character, who I'm still trying to find what her name was, but I can't remember what it was. So forgive me for that. Their relationship together is definitely the heart of the film. I actually found it quite charming, heartwarming, and towards the end she has when Baby Godzilla decides to go with Godzilla, it made me a little bit misty-eyed, but not like it, but in a way that was more heartwarming than anything else. So, and the design of the creature is actually pretty. He's not as sort of ugly but cute like Mini Yellow was. So he's definitely more in the vein of what Godzilla would look like if he was very young. So, but also which I thought was pretty good, and also you can definitely, but you can definitely tell. I think when Jurassic Park was definitely a major influence on this film when it came to Baby Godzilla. So, because it came out the year before this one. So, overall, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my favorite ones. I think like it's has a solid script, well directed, good cast, great monster effects, great destruction sequences, and like I said, it's just really really entertaining. So if I had to rate this one, I give this one a solid 4 out of 5. Now on to the next film, which is Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, which I actually really like what the villain that they come up with this film. So basically, for this one, how the creature Space Godzilla is made up of the same DNA as Godzilla, and how they did that. And this is a theory within the film, is that after sort of Godzilla battled Biollante and Mothra, the creature's Godzilla's DNA somehow sort of attached themselves to him, and then when they went into space, the DNA possibly went into a black hole, and the radiation from it possibly created this Space Godzilla creature that looks pretty damn cool, and he looks pretty awesome. Like, he still looks like Godzilla, but he has a lot more they sort of make him very different. Like, he sort of has these sort of giant crystals and all that coming out of him, like out of his shoulders and all that. And he definitely has a lot more sort of interesting and unique powers when compared to Godzilla. And also, what I really liked about this film is that it actually has a weight to this one. And while Godzilla in this one has always been the villain in the previous films, this is the one where he sort of has to protect Earth, like the first inclination of him being a good guy, because in this one, the character Miki, who in this one, like, she's been sort of a main supporting character in all the other films, but in this one she's the main focus. This is her story, and she sort of receives communication from the cosmos, the twin girls who help Mothra, who sort of communicate with her, telling her that Space Godzilla is coming, and since Mothra's out in the universe and not on Earth, it's up to Godzilla. They have to get Godzilla to protect the Earth from Space Godzilla, because he will pretty much destroy everything. And so Mothra makes a quick appearance, but then is gone. So basically, it's up to Miki and the scientists to somehow get Godzilla to fight Space Godzilla. And they sort of create this sort of bit of technology where they sort of want to sort of telepathically link themselves to Godzilla. So they create the device that attaches itself to the back of Godzilla's head. But while it does work at first, but eventually it doesn't. And also, Miki sort of has this sort of relationship with one of the soldiers who wants to kill Godzilla, but eventually sort of comes around to her side and realize that what killing Godzilla is wrong. And also, but there was one character in the movie I really liked by the name of Yuki. Who sort of like has this Major Yuki, who has this sort of vendetta against Godzilla because he was friends of the character of he was a friend of one of the soldier characters. General, is it Goro or Goran? I think. Where is it? From Godzilla versus Biollante, and if you remember in that film, his character got killed, and Yuki was friends with that character, and so he decides to go after Godzilla with revenge, and it's sort of this revenge kind of story that sort of goes down all through the film until the end, until he decides to change his mind, and also this film. What I liked about this film is that, let's see, what was the name? Sorry, I just Gondo. Sorry, it was Lieutenant. Yeah, it was Lieutenant Goro. Sorry, Goro Gondo, as you. So that was the name of the character from Biollante. Sorry about that. But in this one, again going back to it, what I liked about this film is that it actually gives Godzilla sort of a reason to save the planet from other monsters, because at one point SpaceGodzilla comes to Godzilla and Little Godzilla's island, and Little Godzilla, now he's definitely changed a lot since MECHAGODZILLA II. Since he's been around Godzilla, sort of the radiation from Godzilla has affected his growth, so he's definitely is much bigger, and definitely looks a bit more like Godzilla, but more cuter, I would say. He's definitely so adorable in this movie, and at one point he has a run-in with SpaceGodzilla, and SpaceGodzilla attacks him, and of course Godzilla fights back, and then SpaceGodzilla imprisons Little Godzilla, and so SpaceGodzilla goes to Tokyo, destroys stuff. So there's Godzilla sort of, to take revenge, goes after SpaceGodzilla, and they have this massive brawl. Like, it's a pretty, like, it's a overall, I did like this movie, but I felt like there were certain aspects of it that didn't really work. Like, there's one sort of subplot where Miki actually gets kidnapped by the Yakuza, and because one of the doctors who she was working with on the whole telepathy sort of with Godzilla experiment wants to try it again, and he just goes insane and works with the Yakuza. They kidnap Miki, and of course some soldiers from G-Force have to go and rescue her. That sort of subplot doesn't really add much to the movie at all, and it's kind of forgettable. Also, like, yeah, there's sort of the human story. Like, even though I really enjoyed, I like the character Miki, and her sort of subplot is definitely, her plot is definitely, to me, was more engaging than all the other sort of human stories in the movie, which I didn't find that interesting at all. But overall, but it does make, but the last half of the movie with Godzilla going up against SpaceGodzilla, the battle sequences between them is pretty awesome, and as you would expect, and it just shows how cool of a villain SpaceGodzilla is, because he does put Godzilla in a bit of the ringer in the last half, but of course Godzilla overcomes that and kicks his ass and wins in the end, and also frees Little Godzilla from his prison. And of course the humans help out as well, because they sort of create another sort of robot that's sort of similar to MECHAGODZILLA, but sort of different. I can't remember the name of what they created, but that doesn't matter anyway. So they use this giant robot to help, which kind of looks like a penguin, to fight. So they team up with Godzilla to fight SpaceGodzilla, and it's all really cool. So overall, it's a solid film. Has some really cool moments, but there's something but at the same time it sort of lacked in a lot of areas as well. But overall, if I had to give this one a rating, I'd give it a solid 3 stars. So yep, that's it. That's the end of the 12th edition of the Godzilla Diaries. Keep a lookout again for the 13th edition, in which I will be talking about the very last film in the Heiser series of the Godzilla films, Godzilla vs. Destroyer. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that last part wrong, because it's supposed to be Destroyer, but they sort of spell it differently. And as well as Roland Emmerich's American remake of Godzilla. So keep a lookout for that one, and I'll see you all later. See you, everyone. Bye.